the person referenced will be permitted a 30-second rebuttal.
And we should point out that the candidate actually has to be here to be able to have their 30-second rebuttal time.
Suspicious timing once again. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. This is almost a continuation of my previous video talking about the most recent floor crosser, Marilyn Gladu. Suspicious timing. With that, we've got pundits blasting her, absolutely ripping her a new one. We've got the Juno News BC leadership debate. Two of the Liberal candidates didn't show up for the debate and get absolutely destroyed as well. Aaron Gunn dropping some truth bombs. Got some other stuff here. Let's jump into this. Starting this episode off, we've got Conservative Raquel Dancho posting this. Delayed wage payments, no health care for workplace injuries, indentured servitude-like conditions. What's she describing? EV giant BYD accused of forced labor violations at European factory. Elbows up. This is who they're bringing into our country. China Labor Watch interviewed 50 workers at BYD facility in Hungary. Yep, it's already starting. Got this one from the Reclamaire. This is a real head scratcher. We've got $10 million is being spent on 14 charging locations. So he works the math out on this. Gas in Canada, 11,611 stations times 8 pumps times 12 cars per hour is 1,113,000 cars per hour. Now EV locations, we've got each location times 5 chargers times 2 cars per hour equals 10 cars per hour. Total required to meet the gas pumps equivalent here is $80 billion in government funding. Yeah, the EV rollout, not exactly the home run that they'd like to paint it out to be. This is all a grift for them to make money. This should not be mandated. Obviously, this should be allowed. You want to drive an EV, but this should not be forced. Obviously, Carney invested in it. That's why they're doing it. Don't forget the grid and generation upgrades to provide 100 amps to each charger. I mean, it's just astronomical. The cost to have EVs across Canada, and it's not going to work. Jumping ahead, we've got quite the story, and interesting the timing. Coming from the National Post, federal deficit could top $100 billion by 2035, economist warns. On my previous video, I went over how the timeline always adds up every single time something big is happening that's going to be bad for the Liberals. Suddenly there's a floor crosser. There's always a convenient floor crosser that just is there to take up the media circuit and hide and distract away from whatever it is, such as the budget, you name it. There was always someone ready to be a floor crosser. And now we've got Marilyn Gladu, and the very same day we've got this kind of story, federal deficit could top $100 billion. And on top of this, I didn't mention this in the previous video, the BC Conservative leadership debate gets overshadowed by this floor crossing nonsense as well. Little too convenient. Somebody's getting rich.
I mean, Marilyn Gladu is from the far right flank of the Conservative Party. This is not somebody who's been shy about their socially conservative beliefs. Someone who was rebuked by a former leader for spreading vaccine misinformation. It's clear that the Liberals under Carney are building a big tent, and apparently it's such a big tent you can drive a trucker convoy through it, because she also supported the trucker convoy. Yes.
This is unreal. There's no reason why, it doesn't make any sense why Marilyn Gladu is joined Carney. It doesn't make sense aside from, is there bags of cash? Is there a big briefcase? Is there, more realistically, there's not going to shuffle over a suitcase? Is there a bank account in Beijing that's got $1 million in it? $10 million? What was the price? Is she getting paid off? It doesn't make sense. Was it just a cabinet position and she can switch her riding? That doesn't make sense either. People are greedy. Somebody is getting something from this.
The government's promises were that they were going to sell off land. The government's promises were that they were going to sell off land so that they could build the affordable housing that we're missing because of the massive immigration that did not match the supply of housing. And yet here we go. We see again that they're giving money. Who's getting rich, Madam Speaker? That's always the question with these Liberals. It's corruption. It's Brookfield. It's the Prime Minister getting rich. I'm just not certain exactly which Liberal insider's getting rich on this one, Madam Speaker.
Is the joke on us? Is she the one getting rich now?
A lot of people have been asking me, what do you think about Mark Carney? And so I thought I would let everyone know what I think about Mark Carney, starting off with the fact that he's been Justin Trudeau's economic advisor for the past 5 years. So he's part of the disastrous mess that has been created by the Liberals in terms of the inflation, the increased cost of everything. And so I don't see that he is going to bring any change at all.
Something doesn't add up. Are there well-stuffed Beijing bank accounts that are being dished out?
And when you look at who he has appointed as his chief of staff, Marco Mendocino. Marco Mendocino was kicked out of cabinet for all of the lies that he told when he said that the police requested they enact the Emergency Measures Act, and the police clearly said they did not.
They don't even care. These people go over there. They don't care their record. They know what they said. It doesn't matter. Carney doesn't care. None of them care. It's all about money and ripping us off. It's just so disgusting.
When he said he didn't know anything about Paul Bernardo being transferred to a medium security prison, and that turned out not to be true either. And then the transition team for Mark Carney, he picked David Lametti. David Lametti was the minister in the middle of the SNC-Lavalin scandal that got the get-out-of-jail-free card for SNC-Lavalin in the corruption case. So this is really bad judgment, in any case, and it doesn't speak well of the integrity of the government. But what we know about Mark Carney is that he wouldn't disclose all of his assets in Brookfield. He lied several times during the campaign leadership race. He said that he had nothing to do with the Brookfield move from Canada to the U.S., that he was not involved. And clearly minutes were produced where he chaired meetings where he voted in favor of the move, and he wrote letters to the shareholders to get them to support the move of the head office from Canada to the U.S.
And the reason they did that is because now they can't call them to testify in the House of Commons because they're an American headquartered company. They know what they're doing. This was planned from the start. Mark Carney voted for that the second he stepped down. They initiated that just before Carney left to become Prime Minister. They had this plan from the start. Now, what doesn't make sense is this situation. Maybe Michael Mall was planted there from the start, but Marilyn here, it doesn't make sense.
How does that inspire confidence that he cares about Canada at all? Nothing says, I think Canada's a great place to invest, like moving your head office to the U.S. So, there's nothing but concerns when it comes to Mark Carney. We don't get the straight answers. He avoids getting any questions from the press. And so he's never been elected. He wasn't elected by the Canadian people. It was a handful of Liberals in a leadership race that is going to make the next Prime Minister of Canada. And so far, it doesn't look good. That's what I think.
Quite a scathing video from Carney's newest floor crosser. She's getting annihilated on every network here.
The question is, should you do that? Should Mark Carney be able to secure a majority, not through the will of the people, not through a mandate from the people? Should he be able to do that by people taking advantage of a loophole in our parliamentary system? A loophole I'll bring up that Marilyn Gladu started a petition in January to force a by-election for people who cross the floor. So is she going to voluntarily resign and run as a Liberal in a by-election? Because that's what she said she would have done 2 months ago. Is she going to do that again?
Well, there isn't a by-election. You think there should be?
You know what? I think there should be. I think if you cross the floor, there should be a by-election. Marilyn Gladu 2 months ago said there should be. So will she say that again? I doubt it.
And if your data is correct, which I'm not doubting, that 80% of people who vote in a federal election are actually voting for a leader, how do you think the people of Sarnia Lambton would vote if they were put to a vote?
Yeah, and honestly, it's actually higher than that. And then this is, into the theory of political science of what determines somebody's vote. I would imagine that people would vote overwhelmingly for the Conservative Party. It is a very conservative riding. It is historically a conservative riding. It's provincially a conservative riding.
Yeah, I showed this in the previous video. 53% is what she won with last time. There's no way the Liberals would win this one.
People who live in Sarnia Lambton tend to vote Conservative. I think they will be very upset that Marilyn Gladu has abandoned her value system and that she basically is telling them that their vote didn't matter. She is now a Liberal, sitting as a Liberal, voting as a Liberal. And, I have a lot of Liberal friends who today are wondering, are we now a pro-choice, a pro-life party? Do we have to have room for all of these different positions in our party that yesterday we didn't?
20 years it's been a conservative riding. You're right on that. Conservative strategist Larissa Waller, thank you for this.
It's unbelievable. Jumping ahead, listen to Lisa Raitt here. Just absolutely annihilate her.
I have this vision in my head of Mark Carney as the Pied Piper, right? He's got the flute and he's whistling all these people across. But in reality, don't forget, the Pied Piper, he attracted rats.
Leave it to you, Lisa. Kathleen, it's going to be tough to top that one.
That's the statement of the week right there. Of course, somebody AI'd it. Miss Raitt appears to be taking these multiple floor crossings personally. I mean, I think all conservatives are taking this personally. It's undemocratic what's going on here, especially when you have someone who's a very right-wing person like Marilyn. What's in it for her? Does she have family members with a criminal record that's getting expunged? Is there a Beijing bank account? She's not just going there for Carney's vision. Like, let's get real. We're not dumb. Being of one of the rats, they brought D'Entremont onto CTV.
Resignation. You also did speak specifically about Mr. Poilievre's leadership. How do you see how that is continuing to play out? Do you think he can remain in place for much longer?
I mean, I'm not going to comment on it. I haven't been a part of that caucus for a while now. But, ultimately, they're going to have to be asking questions of themselves and looking inward. I mean, if we look through time as, a different member has crossed over and see what the response has been directly from them, they seem to be blaming others for this challenge and not looking inwardly. They need to look inwardly.
Looking inwardly, this guy didn't even tell his own wife that he was going to cross the floor. These people are disgraceful losers. He's proven he isn't conservative or liberal. He's nothing more than a self-serving, bottom-feeding POS who cares about nothing but himself, traitor to his people, no honor or respect or anything, including himself, and he knows it. Wow, what a great comment here from Spark Nexus. The BC leadership race is on, and the debates just happened. Before we jump into that, an interesting analysis came out from this website here right now, where they basically broke down all the candidates and ranked them. This isn't polling data. They didn't poll a bunch of people. This is their ranking based off of their values, who they are, their experience, etc. They have their recommended ranking here, and it says, after conducting interviews with the candidates and evaluating them on their pro-life principles, policies, along with their winnability, we encourage you to vote in the following order. And they've ranked them out here. Carrie Lynn Finley, number 1, Yuri Fulmer, number 2, Ian Black, number 3, Caroline Elliott, number 4, Peter Millibar, number 5, and Warren Ham, number 6. They break this down by percentage here: 81, 57, 13, 11, 11, and 0. Poor Warren Ham. Jumping over to the BC Conservative debate, only 4 people showed up. Peter Millibar didn't show up, same with Caroline Elliott. I don't know how they expect to be leader when they don't show up to debate. I wanted to point out a couple brief clips here, things that are relevant to all Canadians. The biggest thing is dealing with the land grabs, getting a pipeline from Alberta to the BC coast. I like this format Juno News did. They have a bunch of rapid fire questions where you have to say yes or no with a card, and then other questions where the candidates get to answer.
As Premier, would you end DEI policies, including race and gender-based hiring in the public service, and commit to hiring solely based on merit?
Have you participated in land acknowledgements that describe British Columbia as unceded territory?
Yeah.
This is interesting. Yuri Fulmer has not getting applause for that. That's for sure.
Over the past few weeks, British Columbia has received a series of historic credit downgrades. Would you be willing to make significant cuts to the size of BC's public service in order to rein in what is now the largest deficit in BC history?
So BC, like many other provinces now, are having record deficits. It's terrifying. I mean, that's the only way to describe it. Check this out. Aaron is such a savage.
When we also remind candidates to please avoid speaking over one another and to limit making their points to the times that they are allotted to speak. And we'll also have these red and yellow placards here, and these are not equity cards from the NDP convention. These are... When you have 30 seconds left in your speaking time, you will be shown the yellow card and the red card when your time has expired.
If a candidate references one of their fellow contestants during their response, the person referenced will be permitted a 30-second rebuttal.
And we should point out that the candidate actually has to be here to be able to have their 30-second rebuttal time. Sorry, I had to go off script for a second.
I mean, it's embarrassing. You've got 2 empty podiums here. You can see them. They didn't show up. How do they expect to be leader? Sorry, I can't drop this. It's unacceptable. If you want to be a leader, you got to show up no matter where it is to defend your position, defend your record, and to be the leader of this party and the leader of British Columbia. Jumping ahead, you got to hear this. So talking about street candy, safe supply.
This is so harmful. We've lost so many thousands of Canadians. People getting free drugs, so-called safe supply. Well, there is no such thing as safe supply of drugs. And they are selling their supply. We have a recovery society right here in New West called Open Door. The person who heads that up said that every one of his clients sell their free drugs to get harder drugs. It's quite a profit when you get it for free in the first place.
You hear that? Every single person that comes in for David Eby's safe supply gets the free street candy, then sells it and buys harder stuff. This is what he has created in this country. They're trying to roll this out in other places. Ontario. It's absolutely appalling. This is absolutely savage here. Listen to this.
I want to be really clear with people because harm reduction is such a pretty term. And people get confused. Harm reduction equals free drugs. Let's be incredibly clear. And I actually wish Caroline Elliott was here today because she's spoken in favor of quote unquote harm reduction, when what she meant to say was she was in favor of free drugs. She just used a way prettier term. But unfortunately, she's not here to respond. Look, my faith call.
This is savage. Just wait. Skipping to the end. Aaron Gunn gets a jab in here.
Thank you, Mr. Fulmer. And you did mention another candidate, so we'll give them 30. Actually, no, sorry, we're going to move on.
I'll go down and answer for it.
Sorry there. Yeah. Moving on to Mr.
This is unbelievable. She's become a laughingstock of this debate. This is what happens when you don't show up. Moving ahead in the debate here, I just want to highlight this one clip by Carrie Lynn Finley, absolutely knocking this one out of the park.
On to our next topic, resource development and pipelines. British Columbia is endowed with an almost unimaginable amount of natural resource wealth. Forestry and mining, fishing and agriculture, natural gas. What is your strategy to unleash the wealth of British Columbia's resources and make this province one of the wealthiest jurisdictions in the entire world?
It's clear that we need a fighter as the leader of the Conservative Party of BC. We need to get rid of the NDP, which is the biggest barrier to us being prosperous again. If it need be, we need to have a fighter who will go behind enemy lines, because that's exactly what we're talking about when we're talking about our resources. I went to a forestry town hall in Duncan, the saddest meeting I've ever been at. Instead of going to work the next morning, they were talking about extension of their EI benefits. Our processing plants have shut down. Our refineries have shut down. And at the latest municipal conference, David Eby called forestry and ministry sunset industries. They're only sunset industries because he's decided ideologically that that's what he wants. Is that what you want? I don't believe so. No, we want to, I think I wasn't supposed to encourage that. Excuse me, I just did it. It was natural. But we need to bring our processing back into BC. We need refineries back in BC. We're selling our oil to the States at a discount. They refine it and sell it back to us at world prices. We've become raw log exports instead of processing our own here. We need that pipeline up north, but we also need a tanker to come and pick it up. And EB doesn't like that idea. So we have 200 U.S. tankers a year going up and down the west coast of Vancouver Island. We can do this. And BC, Alberta, and Saskatchewan should be a Western Canadian powerhouse together. Thank you.
It is such a good response. And that's just it. There's tankers going up and down the coast of Vancouver Island every single year. They go up to Alaska and back down to San Francisco or to San Diego, down in America to their ports down there. And yet David Eby has decided that he wants to make all of us impoverished and saddle us with massive amounts of debt. The last election, this guy promised everyone $1,000 cash and then pulled it away as soon as he won the election. He is such an unbelievably corrupt politician. This guy is absolutely entrenched in China. Here's Ding Guo. Here's all the connections, the Canada Committee 100 Society, David Eby attending the banquet, $20,000 given to this organization, and directly connected to the United Front Work Department and China. So yes, we got to absolutely get rid of David Eby. And really, it's Carrie Lynn Finley. She's the one to get the job done here. The only other Conservative here on stage is Warren Ham. He doesn't have any political experience. You can see Carrie Lynn Finley started getting the crowd going, and then she realized, oh, that was against the rules. Ian Black, former Liberal. So now obviously the other two Liberals that didn't show up, Millibar and Caroline Elliott. As we can see on the stage here, if I make it full screen, you can see Caroline Elliott there and Peter Millibar did not show up to debate. Too terrified to debate against some Conservatives. They're not fit to lead.